All right, everyone, welcome back to Messari's Unqualified Opinions. I'm Ryan Selkis at 2-Bit Idiot, and we've got another good one for you today. Alex Adelman, who's the founder and CEO of Lolli at Try Lolli. We're going to talk about maybe everybody's favorite subject, which is getting free money for participating in a day-to-day activity that we all do anyway, which is online shopping. Lolli, to me, is an application that is super promising, and it's also arguably been tried before in previous cycles in crypto, but I would say that the time is now to actually capitalize on what you guys are building. So really excited to dig into the user behavior that you've seen early on with this app, some of the things that you're cognizant of, whether there's any pitfalls or if you worry about the scalability of this type of system. We're going to talk about which other assets you might accept, any other new features or partnerships that are upcoming. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that people know who you are and kind of what your origin story is, how you got into this industry, and what drove you to create Lolli.
Yeah, first off, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So my name is Alex Adelman. I started a company about 7 years ago called Cosmic, with actually the same team as Lolli. And we set out on a mission to democratize commerce. We built a solution that let retailers sell their products anywhere and let people buy anywhere. And the idea was, if you can give people that ability to buy and sell anywhere, we create a more equal playing field for everybody. And about halfway into building Cosmic, we as a team sort of stumbled upon Bitcoin and learned about everything about it, and was just like fascinated with its ability to democratize commerce native to a currency. Mm-hmm. And we never ended up implementing it. It's probably a good thing. We stayed like very focused and learned the sort of the power of staying focused on building one thing and doing it right. But yeah, learned a lot and sort of stayed I guess tapped into the space for a while. We ended up getting acquired by our biggest customer, Pop Sugar, mm-hmm. to come in and power $1.2 billion in retail revenue. And then we got acquired again by an even bigger company called Ebates. Ebates is the largest cashback company in the US. And while working there, we learned a lot about the cashback space. And over the last 7 years, got to meet just about every retailer in North America and a lot of merchants all over the world. We were very deeply tied into the payment space. We were PCI level 1 compliant. It was a pretty hard company to build, very mm-hmm. Enterprise heavy and very focused on the infrastructure. I think one of my learnings and part of my fascinations with Bitcoin was seeing the deep inefficiencies of the payment markets. And when you start to do cross-border commerce and you start to talk to merchants that want to sell a product from Japan to Sweden, you see these sort of where things break down with chargebacks and inefficiencies, which is payments, acquiring banks, how many middlemen have to communicate for one payment to go through. And every single time you run into one of these hurdles as a business and you see it as an opportunity, I just kept coming back to Bitcoin. So after the team and I parted ways with Ebates, I started to think about what problem do we want to solve. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I think that the Bitcoin's biggest problem, in my opinion, and the one that I was going to solve, there's plenty of problems that we can solve as a community, but Bitcoin's biggest problem, in my opinion, was the distribution problem and an education problem. Mm-hmm. It was too difficult to mine for most people and too risky to invest in. And so we took the Ebates business model and we said, what if we applied it to Bitcoin and gave it as a way for people to earn Bitcoin instead of having to buy or mine it, and make it very, very simple for people to earn and just get in the space, meanwhile teaching people about Bitcoin. So we launched about 7 months ago. We have over 750 merchants on board so far. We're growing really fast. Things are, I was talking about with another founder friend the other day, it's controlled chaos. There's a lot going on right now. But yeah, the community's just been unbelievable, both the Bitcoin community, and just the people who are new to Bitcoin. So yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
I think one of the key takeaways for pretty much everybody that's starting a business in crypto is simplicity kills. And there can be a lot of complexity behind the scenes, the controlled chaos. But what I think you guys have done a really good job of is just keeping it super, super simple. You shop online, you download a browser extension, you earn Bitcoin automatically, and we store it.
Yeah.
Right. That's there's no user behavior change, right? Except for the one-click browser extension that you're purchasing, and the way that you can position it is, it's kind of like Ebates, but it's got lottery ticket potential.
Exactly.
Which is, I think, really powerful. And in previous market cycles, there were other companies that worked on micropayments or tipping or micro earning functionality, but it was never as streamlined as one click, you set up this default new behavior, and you can start earning basically what you would earn with Ebates, which I think many people are now familiar with because it's such a large company.
Right.
But it just, and let's think about this as a saving account that you forget about and then come back to after it's actually accumulated a ton of value in maybe the next round.
Totally. And I participated in a lot of different like faucets back in the day. I'd love it feels good to get something of value for free that you believe in. And I think those would like sort of set the path for distribution. I think in terms of scalability, you need a real business model.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people understand how like Lolli works. We partner.
You're just giving away free money, so it's basically a charitable.
Yeah, it's a great business.
Yeah,
exactly. Out of the goodness of my heart. So we partner with these merchants, and we give them like what they're doing is they want users to shop at their site,
mm-hmm.
and what they're looking for is like unique users, new users, what they call incremental revenue. So we come to them and we say we have this group of users that wants to earn Bitcoin more than cash, more than points, more than anything, and they want to shop for groceries, travel, whatever they're looking for. And so it's a two-sided market, and we try to find as many retailers, great retailers as possible on one side of the market, and then give our consumers the ability to shop as they normally would and earn more when they shop at sites that provide more Bitcoin back. Mm-hmm. And so we're just sort of the middleman. The merchant pays us, and then we pay the consumer, and then we take a small fee.
Are these all individual licensing agreements, or is there an aggregator that populated the first 300 or so of the merchants?
It's both. So we have like long tail that works with different networks
mm-hmm.
that helps us get like a lot of the long tail. It's one of those like 80-20 business models,
sure.
where 20% of our merchants drive 80% of our revenue. And because we've built these relationships over the last 7 years with my last company, we have direct relationships with them, and we know them. We've known them for 7 years now, just as a team. So they trusted us with Cosmic. We did deep payment integrations. We did like pen testing, security compliance. So we know these merchants pretty intimately, and we built their trust over the last 7 years. So when we come in and we say, hey, there's this new currency called Bitcoin, and there's a whole market, and you don't have to do anything. They're not doing any heavy lifting with Lolli. They're not doing any payments yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gets piques their interest. Is they're like, we love sales. Like we love to attract a new a new customer. So it's sort of a win-win for everybody, and not to be overly optimistic, but it's a good model.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. You bring up the faucet example, and where I think this can be pretty powerful is that people don't value free money, right? So airdrops and faucets, historically, you collect it, but if it's $1 here, it's $1. You just don't care. Mostly because I feel many of the airdrops, especially now that the user base is so much larger, are for these long tail assets,
mm-hmm.
where it's really questionable whether they will actually ever rally. But I think more people have conviction that Bitcoin is something really interesting, and I should maybe save a little bit and see how it happens. Maybe Ethereum as well. But that subtle difference in that. People are used to getting cash back from Ebates. They're used to their credit card points and these programs. So they almost, at this point, are conditioned to feel entitled and value those systems.
Right.
So if you're now using this instead of an alternative like Honey, or there's a few other browser extensions that give you just actual cash back instead of crypto.
Or points.
Right? Now they feel like I'm actually earning this, right? So I've put some type of skin in the game, and it's I think it's a subtle shift, but it's an important one that plays to your favor. On that point, though, when are you going to accept other assets? Are you a hardcore maximalist? I know Zach loves you because it's just Bitcoin right now. So like all of that is probably going to go out the window as soon as you start adding multiple coins. But for right now, you're a Bitcoin darling. So what's the plan for these other assets?
We're building this for Zach's approval. So talk to him. I wouldn't consider myself a Bitcoin maximalist. I believe in the principles of Bitcoin, and I'm very much I got my start in crypto from Bitcoin. I think that it makes the most sense for long-term value and where we want, where I think the world's going. Everything else, I'm just not sold on yet, and I look at it as like very much like my reputation, the company's reputation, and going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is like focus. So, when I went to Minneapolis, when I went to Omaha, Chicago, North Carolina, where I'm from and where most of our team is, like, no one was asking for Ethereum. Like, no offense to the Ethereum community, no one was asking for EOS or anything. They were asking for Bitcoin, and they were like, I can't tell you how many threads I have from like friends back home that are like, how do I buy Bitcoin? How do I get Bitcoin? My mom knows that I've been like, dabbling in the space, and she was like, I've been seeing it on the news. Like, where do I get it? How do I do it? Should like, our family invest in it? Should we like, and so the more questions I got like that, the answer right now is Bitcoin, and it's not that we won't ever do other currencies. No other currency has proven to me what I want to do with Bitcoin, which is really like, I want to connect the entire world through commerce. That's my end game. I want everyone in the world to be able to have the same asset. I want everyone in the world to be able to be connected by a currency and be able to trade freely. Other currencies or tokens just haven't shown me that yet. And so I would say I'm pretty like open-minded. I think you have to be in this space. This world moves so fast. But Bitcoin is the best technology that I've seen to date that like connects the world and can connect the world in the future. Everything Elizabeth's doing and the team's doing with Lightning is solving a lot of the scalability issues that where we've had issues in the past. So we're like super excited to. We've been playing around with it in the background, but super excited at a certain point to launch, at least experiment with Lightning. And I just haven't run into an issue with Bitcoin that has been prohibitive for our growth. And I've gotten a handful of requests for Ethereum, a handful of requests for like Ripple, a few requests for...
That's actually just one request from 1,000 different accounts.
Yeah. I don't know. Like,
hi, Brad.
Yeah, I'm open to being proven wrong, but I've learned never to be dogmatic about anything. Coming from like religious upbringings, like I'm not a dogmatic person. It may seem like it, but I'm not.
Having that litmus test, I think, is important. There are a few folks that have taken that type of stance historically, even when customers were asking for it. Wences Cesaris from Zappo comes to mind. And aside from just having the vaults, they've also worked on some micropayments applications and figuring out how to make this Bitcoin more ubiquitous for its actual payments function. Much to the chagrin, I think, of some of his early customers, Zappo still does not custody Ether, right? And it's for that same reason. He doesn't believe in it quite yet. I don't know if his stance has changed, but I think there certainly is a subset where that's meaningful. I would argue for you guys, it's probably less of a concern even because there has to be an element of, look, we're talking about $50. If this is the gateway drug, and whoever our users are ultimately want to dabble in other cryptocurrencies, there are, I'm sure, endless partnerships that you guys can strike to refer customers to Coinbase or Kraken or Binance, whichever other exchange might be clamoring for this exact user base.
Totally.
How are they going to get their next incremental user? So just like you have the marketplace on the merchant side, if some of your customers do actually want to trade other assets, well, by the way, you're a hell of a channel for some of these other exchanges. And are those conversations ongoing yet, or is it still too early?
So, I believe in a free market. Like, you can do whatever you want with your Bitcoin. Your coin is your coin.
I'm talking about your referrals, okay. Lolli's referrals.
Yeah.
Would you direct people to a given exchange? Have you had conversations like that yet?
Right now, no. We haven't directed anyone to any specific exchange. Like there's some that I would recommend, like personally, but right now we're just letting people take their coins wherever they want. I think eventually people will look for ways to earn more. We have plans in the future to give people the ability to buy more and sell Bitcoin, trade Bitcoin, all of that. So we want, the way I look at personal finance going is like, if Bitcoin is the bank of the future, then we need to give people the tools to act as their own bank. So think of all the functions that a bank has, and how do you enable a person to be empowered with those same features? That's pretty much our roadmap for the next 5 years. Is like enabling people to be their own bank.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because how big is Ebates now?
Ebates is valued. They got bought by Rakuten about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's valued at probably around 4 or 5 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this market standalone is plenty big, right?
Totally.
I guess is the point. It seems that you can develop a strong network effect, a strong brand around this as a core product, but how much more incremental work do you actually need to do to scale that business? Because it's one that seems to run more or less on autopilot after a while, aside from marketing and getting incremental users in the door. So I'd imagine that how much more do you feel like you have to reach feature completeness for this narrow use case, and then what would be the next extension of the product once you actually have this capital user base?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So Ebates is like sort of the North Star for the first couple years. We know that business model really well. Like, we're executing on it, I think, pretty well. And that's not the end game though. Like, we want to be like the Amex on top of Bitcoin rails, and we want to be the Visa on top of Bitcoin rails. I think Bitcoin serves its own function as a currency, but there will be companies built on top of Bitcoin that function to serve its users. And I look at it as like Bitcoin, there's no CEO of Bitcoin. Like, they're not going out and negotiating these like rates with merchants. There's jobs to be done on top of it. And so we can always be an advocate for Bitcoin. We can always find ways to build businesses on top of it. Right now, where Ebates is sort of like the North Star and what we're going after, I look at like Visa and Amex as being really like the biggest opportunity, or one of the biggest opportunities. I think I want to go bigger than that, and I think we have the ability to go bigger because Visa is limited by countries, it's limited by borders. Bitcoin inherently is universal. So hypothetically, if we execute over the next 10 to 20 years, we should be able to build something bigger than Visa. Like, and I, maybe I sound like an overzealous founder, but that's where we're heading. So no one stopped us yet. But yeah, it's like, why shouldn't Bitcoin have a rewards network and a trust network? Is really what Visa is. It's loyalty to the consumer, but to the merchant, it's trust. It's how do you provide trust, and like Bitcoin has this like trustless ecosystem. But if merchants are going to accept Bitcoin, you have to have some sort of network, and you have to have some sort of understanding of where the Bitcoin's coming from. You don't have to know the person. I don't want them to know the person. You just need to know that that money is there and that you can pay. And then the consumer wants their Bitcoin back to build that loyalty. And so how do you build that network across all of Bitcoin? And that's way bigger than Ebates. That's
how do you guys handle on that point? How do you guys handle the compliance element? Are you subject to KYC, AML, like those types of restrictions? Because you are a payment processor of sorts.
Kind of, sort of.
So how do you get around that?
So without getting into too much detail, like the secret sauce or anything, we technically do not have to be. We're not technically a money transmitter. You're earning Bitcoin. You're not buying it. And so the merchant is giving us this Bitcoin, and yeah, we're holding it for you securely, and when as soon as you say how you're doing it securely, it's not secure, so I can't share everything about that. But yeah, we're holding your Bitcoin for you securely as any other exchange would, but because you're not buying it, we're not subject to that. So I look at like our business model.
That is different though than Ebates, somewhat, right? Because Ebate sends you the check. I don't know how they ultimately.
I have a different perception of like Ebates and Honey than I think a lot of people do. So having worked there and having worked in the space,
you should. So yeah, enlighten us.
I look at Ebates as like, Ebates had the opportunity to be, I think, one of the biggest banks in the country, but they didn't. They had banks on top of them, and Honey did too. They all do. All these rewards networks do. Venmo, I think, is like one of the biggest banks in the country, but they're not a bank. And if you look at everything that Jack Dorsey is doing, like, why do you think he's doing it? Because he has a bank on top of him that like he can't take away their margin. He basically has a tax the same way any of us have tax from our countries, from our banks, and you can't go upstream. You get stopped by the banks. So why do you think he's so interested in Bitcoin? It's like because he gets to be his own bank, and he gets to remove that, and he gets to create a closed loop ecosystem. That's every payment network's dream, is to build a closed loop ecosystem where they don't have to work with any other party, and they can be their own margin. They can take their own margin. That's what I don't think a lot of people understand about the Cash App Square connection, and why it's so powerful, and why I think I'm more long on Square than just about any public company right now. It's just it's unbelievable, and no one's been able to execute on both the consumer side and the merchant side. The distribution on both is just like unrivaled, and like it's pretty incredible what they've done. So what we look at is like, how do you own both the merchant relationship and the consumer? And we're going after a very similar game that Cash App is. Like, I want you to use Lolli, and I want you to earn from all these different places. I want you to have all these merchants, the same way that like Cash App wants you to be connected with all your friends and build this bank on top. We never touch banks in our ecosystem, so we also want to build a closed loop ecosystem as well. But to answer your earlier question, Ebates never had the ambition to be a bank, and they never knew that the opportunity to existed to be a bank. Honey didn't either. We're starting with day one, knowing that Bitcoin is the bank, and we can build the tools on top of it to enable the consumer that wants to be their own bank. We can enable them with the tools. So from day one, if we're optimizing for something different and the opportunity is way bigger, and we don't have sort of the sunk cost of building the technology that they did, we can hypothetically move way faster in that direction with less sunk costs.
You touched on it a little bit. I know you skirted around, I'm sure for good reasons, on the security side. But as you continue to scale, there could be a lot of money that you're responsible for and that you're custodying. Are you doing this all in-house, or are you working with someone like BitCo or another qualified custodian? Who's helping on the back end?
Yeah, we work with a trusted third party on the back end. That's
but not disclosed.
Not disclosed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's someone we did deep diligence with, and we're also not trusting just one party. We've learned throughout the space, like you never trust just one party. You want multiple. So yeah, we work with multiple OTCs and multiple third parties for secure transactions, holding, all that good stuff. Yeah, I think I don't want to discount anyone in the Bitcoin community, but I personally think we had to do way more with compliance in the payment industry. I mean, we were processing way more payments with Cosmic over the last 7 years than we have with Lolli, and probably will for a foreseeable future. We landed Target, and one of our claims to fame in the space was we closed Target as a merchant, our first major merchant with Cosmic. And a week in, the biggest credit card breach of all time happened, and we survived it. And what they were really diligencing with us is they had to look into our back end and see, like, are we doing this compliant? Are we PCI level 1? And when you're doing PCI level 1, like you have to be processing like 400K to give you an idea of scale, 400K in sales. So that's a lot of like movement. And target post breach, you can imagine sort of the scrutiny that we had from like the payment wizards of the US. And if you think there's scrutiny under like Bitcoin and security tokens and all that stuff now, like look into the payments world. Like after the breaches especially, like people do not mess around with payments when you're dealing with like credit card payments and all that stuff. So as soon as you touch banks, like you get under close scrutiny. So we learned a lot from our last company that we're applying to Lolli. And yeah, it's not all too dissimilar, but there's a lot that the crypto community can learn from the payments world.
There's the financial element. There's also the data security element. So you sign up for Lolli, it's email or Facebook. Are you reselling data?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a fair question.
It is.
With Facebook login and Ebates, that's there is a data component to that business, is there not?
Indirectly, and I don't know if I can share that. I encourage everyone to do their own research.
I'm sure that there is. Yeah.
Look into what Rakuten owns, what else they own, and you'll kind of piece it together. I think there's like nuance there, and I don't want to like. They're a great company.
Which by the way, for your application, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because you're actually in position to remit some of those rewards back to the same users in much the same way that you're already doing it with sharing the cash back. If anything, I would see that as an opportunity, provided that it's obvious and transparent and whatnot, which it seems like it'd be a no-brainer to do that, because not only would you want to be transparent about it, you would want to market it.
Yeah.
we can help you. Hey, we've been helping you with cash back. By the way, all these other third parties are using your data. We can package it and help you get some of that back as well.
So we have some really cool stuff that we're working on in the
if you own that relationship.
Yeah. So we have really cool stuff we're working on in the background to be more transparent about what we're collecting and how the privacy works in the background. The truth is we don't want this data. There's certain like data that we have to have, and it's very minimal data for the retailer to be able to reward our users properly. There's things that we're working on that will mask who that is, so that you can let people transact seamlessly. And it doesn't work all too differently from that now. It's just a lot of people don't know what's happening in the background. They're trusting us, but you shouldn't trust us. You should trust like what's actually happening. So we're working on a lot in the background to be more transparent, to share what we're collecting. I could never see a situation where we would ever sell data. It's not in the ethics of the company. It's not Matt, my co-founder. He's the one who controls the code. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't like do it. He's a privacy nut. He would never sell that. He would never let us sell that. But you shouldn't trust us. You should just know how we're doing it. And so we have to do better about being more transparent, showing what we're doing in the background. But our business model does not work around selling data whatsoever. And it's just like the way that I see it and the way that people should understand it is it's important to understand what everyone in this world is optimizing for. If we were optimizing to sell your data, we would alienate our entire user base. Like the whole group, like all of our users, they want Bitcoin. They also care about privacy. And so if we ever did anything to compromise their privacy or their data, we would lose all our customers. We're not optimizing to lose customers. We're not optimizing to, like, we want users, we want people to earn Bitcoin, and our retailers wouldn't trust us either if we were sharing data with them that they were sketched out by as well. So there's really like not a path forward where we're successful, where we're sharing data. And sure, there's like previous business models in the cashback space that I would be wary of, and I won't name names, but like you do your research and you can see who those parties are. But I don't know. I feel like we have this opportunity to build like a new world, and why would we cannibalize that? Like I want to build technology for the world that I want to live in, that I want my future kids to live in. Like Matt's kids. I don't see that world having a world where we're selling data.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's always a path in the future, and probably something that you'd have to feel pretty good your users would buy into. My last question: especially because of your stance on Ether and kind of all other assets. Have you thought about doing a securities token or token sale? And the reason I ask this is because you could make a case that this is a pretty good opportunity for a quasi-security token or a bona fide securities token. If you look at what Binance had done and how they were able to bootstrap tremendous liquidity in the exchange by basically giving people a cut of the action. This one actually would logically make sense, and it would help with bootstrapping not just a global user base, but a global missionary base to actually get other people that are not in crypto into the fold.
Yeah.
So I guess you said it fast. No. Is there anything that that specifically you get turned off by with respect to token sales, even if they make some economic and brand sense like that potentially, or is it just a case of we can access the private markets, it's less distracting, you know?
So right now we are extremely lean and aerodynamic and simple. Like it's just it's the beauty of Lolli is in its simplicity. There's no questions about like, you know, what are they doing with their token? What are like, you know, managing an ICO, anything like that. Mm-hmm. It is just a like very streamlined, simple, easy, transparent. As soon as we start adding complexities like that, even if they make sense in the future, it complicates the business and it clouds Lolli and the perception of Lolli with uncertainty. In the future, if it made sense and our community through consensus wanted it, I do see a world where we could build more efficient loyalty tokens on top of Lolli. Like we've been pitched it a million times by people come out of the woodworks to say, you could do this loyalty token, you could do this. I know those use cases. Right now it's just like so early and we're very focused and it's working and people want Bitcoin. Like I think that what I could see in the future, like way down the road, is if merchants wanted some sort of like loyalty token where if you shopped at Walmart, you earn more and you could spend that at Walmart and you could earn more and get more savings by shopping there. We have the access to do that. But personally, I think the more exciting opportunity is for us to build this relationship with Walmart, show that people want Bitcoin more than they want cash or points or anything, and then go back to Walmart and say, look, Walmart, we've generated you guys $50 million in sales, like, accept Bitcoin. That is the bigger opportunity, in my opinion. And like, sure, like we could make more money if we went and launched a token. Like, our team has great credibility. We like people like us. Like, they like what we're working on. And not everybody that's like launching a token is doing it with like ill intent. But it's just not the right timing. I kind of like err on the side of like the Apple approach, where we're gonna see all these people, we're gonna see like the dust settle with like the SEC, we're gonna see all these token sales, what happens, and we're gonna pick the best route going forward. But I think we're in a position where we can be strategic. Like, we have amazing investors already in the private markets, people who are supportive, who bring us tons of merchants. We have competitive advantages there. We have unique relationships where we have partnerships that other people can't get with just like competitors that come out. There's not really like there's the opportunist in me is saying, sure, we could go make a quick buck, but I just don't think on that time frame. Bitcoin sort of teaches you to think on a different like time preference, and that's like how we're thinking right now.
Good answer.
So thank you.
Alex Adelman from Lolli. Where can people sign up?
Lolli.com, LOLLI.com, sign up, download the extension, and start earning Bitcoin back when you shop at over 750 merchants.
At TryLolli and at Alex Adelman on Twitter, so you can harass him if you're in the XRP army directly. Don't come at me anymore, please. Actually, please do, because I haven't blocked quite everybody yet. But until next time, fascinating conversation. I love the company. if I were still investing, I'd be taking a close look at this, because it is simple, and you can very clearly see a path to a lot of value creation, and every stakeholder in the product really making off pretty well. So congrats on the traction so far. We'll have you on again soon.
Appreciate it.
And until next time, thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.
Thank you.